Hey everyone, this is Somnath Gaudar from Future Coders. In this video, we are going to be building this exchange rate calculator which calculates different currencies. So if I set here USDs and I want to know the value of INR, how much 1 USD is equals to INR, as you can see, 1 USD is equals to 74.65 INR. Now if I increase the value here, as you can see, the value also increases. Now I can select any currencies here. Let's say RUB. As you can see, 1 USD is equals to 2 USD is equals to 151.83. Similarly, I can also select some other currencies over here. Let's say this one. As you can see, 2 PYG is equals to 0.042 something over here. Okay, now let's select the USD over here. Okay, now if I want to swap these two currencies, I can just say swap. As you can see, this comes over here and this comes over here. 2 RUB is equals to 0.03 USD, and it also displays over here how much is 1 RUB. If I say here INR, and as you can see, 1 INR is equal to this USD, and if I swap that, as you can see, it also displays 1 USD is equals to this much. And I can increase any value here. If I say 100 USD, as you can see, it calculates the INR value. So we will be using exchange rate API from this exchange rate minus API.com. So we will be using that. We will be fetching data from this API to get all of these values. So let's get started. Before we start building this, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and also don't forget to leave a like on this video. So let's get started. Now let's open up our Visual Studio Code. As you can see, there we have index.html, script.js and style.css. Let's actually close this up and let's make this a little bit smaller over here. Okay. Now here you can get this image from the link in the description, which I will be providing you, the GitHub repo link. You can grab this image from that link. So here we have 3 files inside of the index.html. I'm gonna say here, let's generate some boilerplate first by pressing exclamatory and pressing enter. I'm gonna give the title as exchange rate calculator. Okay. Now I'm gonna right click and click on open with live server. If you don't know what live server is, you can go to the extension marketplace and search for live server and make sure you install this live server extension. Once installed, you can right click on this index.html and click on open with live server, or you can click on over here and click on open with live server. Both are same. So here let's link our style CSS files first by saying link source href is going to be style.css. Okay. Now let's also link the JavaScript file by saying script source is going to be script.js. Okay. Now let's add some HTML first. Over here I'm gonna define an img tag which is going to contain that image. Let's set the source as inside of the image folder we have the money image. So let's also set the class for this. I'm gonna say money image. Now let's save and check. As you can see, there we have our image. Right after this image we will define an h1 tag. It's going to say exchange rate calculator, and after this h1 tag we are going to have an p tag which is going to say choose the currency and the amount to get exchange rate. Okay. After this we are going to have a division with a class name of container, which is going to contain all of those input fields, right? So inside of the container we are going to define another div with a class name of currency, Inside of this division, we are going to have a select with an ID of currency 1. We are not going to have any name, so I'm just going to remove that. So inside of this select, we are going to have a bunch of currencies, right? So I'm just going to copy these. Basically, these are actually many number of currencies, right? So I'm just going to copy paste this. As you can see, you can actually set selected so that at least one, that is this one, will be selected. Now if I specify selected to UAH over here, as you can see, let's save. Sorry. As you can see, UAH will be selected. I want the USD to be selected, so here I'm going to say USD to be selected. So again, right after the select tag, I'm going to say define an input tag, which is going to be of type number, which is going to have an ID ID of amount, which is going to have an ID of amount 1. It is not going to have any name, and it's going to have a placeholder of 0, and initially the value is going to be 1. Okay, as you can see, there we have our input. Right after this division, we're going to have a button, as you've seen in the beginning that as we had a swap button, right? So let's define that. We're going to have a division with the class name of swap rate container. We are going to have a button with the class name of btn and an ID of swap, and the button is going to say swap. There we have our button. And right after that, we are going to have a division which is going to show the rate, right? In the beginning we saw that it is showing 1 USD is equal to this much amount, so that's what we will be adding over here. It is going to have the division with the class name of rate, and it's also going to have the ID of rate. Let's leave it like that. We are going to assign some values from the JavaScript. Right after this division, we are going to have another one of this currency. Let's select that. Let's copy this whole currency. We're going to have another one up to over here. So we're going to grab all of this up to this currency. Let's copy that and paste it over here. Okay, there we have our. So we need to actually change something over here. It's going to have an ID of 2, amount 2, and it's not going to have any placeholder or any value initially assigned, right? Okay, let's select something different over here. Let's select the INR. Let's set it as selected, and we also need to change something over here. It's going to say currency 2. Okay, that's right. Now we need to actually style this up a bit. So we completed the HTML part. We need to actually head over to our styles.css file. Let's do that. Inside of our style, I'm going to define a variable which is going to be accessed everywhere, which can be accessed everywhere inside the root. And the variable name is going to be primary color, which I will be using multiple times, so it's better to define a variable so that I can reuse that. It's going to be this color, phi of BAA7. This is going to be a green color. Okay, that's going to be the same as this logo over here. And now Let's select everything, box sizing to border box. Now let's select the body. Background color is going to be F4, F4 and F4. That's right. And let's set the font family to Arial Helvetica. And let's set the display to flex. And I don't want to display them in the rows. I'm just gonna say flex direction to column. Don't worry about the image, we are gonna fix that. I'm gonna say align items to the center, justify content to the center, and let's set the height to not inherit. It's going to say 100 viewport heights. Now let's take away any padding, the margin, if we have any. Okay, now let's also set the padding to 20 pixels. Now let's select the h1 tag over here. I'm going to set the color to the variable which we define. That's going to be primary color. And let's also select the p tag which we have here. Sorry, it's not going to be there. Let's select the p tag. It's going to say text align to the center. Now it's time to select the button that we have here, which is having the class name of button btn. Let's set the color to white. Background color is going to be the variable which we set. That's the primary color. Let's set the cursor to pointer. Now I also need to set some border radius, 5 pixels. Font size is going to be, let's say, 12 pixels. And padding, 5 pixels to the top and bottom, 12 pixels to the left and right. That's looking nice. Now let's select the money image, which is having the class name of money img. Let's set the width to 150 pixels. Okay, now let's select the currency, this container over here. I'm gonna say padding to 40 pixels, top and bottom, 0 to the left and right. And display of flex, align items to the center, and justify content to the center. Sorry, the space between. It should be space between. Okay, now we need to select the select tag, which is inside of this currency. Select tag. Let's set the padding to 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 10 pixels, and 10 pixels. We need to make it cross-platform so that it looks similar to all the browsers, in all the browsers. So I'm just going to say mouse appearance none. We need to also set the WebKit appearance to none, and finally we also need to set the appearance to none. That's great. Now let's set border 1 pixels, solid. That's going to be this DE. Okay. Now let's set the background to transparent. I'm going to set the background image so that we can have a drop down icon let's set the background image to the URL. You can get this URL, that's going to be an SVG from my GitHub repo, which I will link in the description of this video. That's going to be this one. You can grab the SVG. It's not going to appear yet. We need to add some more styles so that it appears. I'm gonna say here background position is going to be at the right 10 pixels, at the top 50%, and 0 and 0. As you can see, it just appeared. That's not where we want it, so I need to set background size to 12 pixels, auto 100%, and I need to set the background repeat to no repeat. It's still not appearing. That's because this one background size, it should be 12 pixels. As you can see, there we have our drop down icon. Now let's style this input tags which we have inside the currency container. Let's set the border to 0. Background is going to be transparent, and font size 30 pixels, text align to the right. Okay, there we have. We also have an input field over here. We just set that to transparent, so it's not displaying. Now let's style this, where we have this swap rate container. Let's target that. I'm going to set display to flex, align items to the center, and justify content to center. As you can see, there we have our button. It should be not center. I need to set it as space between. That's because we have one more division here. It's going to be appear over here. That's going to be 1 USD is equal to how much value. We remember we left it blank. We are gonna add it from the JavaScript, so it should be space between. Now let's target this division here, actually the rate. It's not going to appear yet, so let's style that first only. Let's set the color to that variable, primary color, and the font size is going to be 14 pixels, and padding is going to be 10 pixels. Okay, it's not appearing right now. We will display it from the JavaScript. Now we need to actually style the focus field of this input fields. So where we have the select, let's also select the focus field of the select and the input focus, and also input focus, also the button focus field, and let's set the outline to 0. As you can see, the outline just gone. Now let's set some media queries. Let's add media when the max width is 600 pixels. I need to say this currency dot input the input field is that are present inside the currency, I need to set the width to 200 pixels. Okay, that's nice. There we completed styling our exchange rate calculator. The only thing left is, the main important thing is adding JavaScript to make it actually work. So let's do that. Now inside of our JavaScript, let's grab everything that we need from this index.html, from the DOM actually. So let's say const, let's grab the currency element 1 by saying document dot get element by id, and it is having the id of currency 1. That's going to be this one, right? Currency element, I think. Let's see. Yeah, that's going to be the select one. That's going to be this currency 1. That's what we are selecting. And also let's also select currency element 2, which is having the id of currency 2. Now let's also grab 2 more items that are going to be these amounts, amount 1, and below is going to be the amount 2. Let's say amount element 1, and let's also grab amount by saying amount 1 here. That's the id, right? So now let's also grab the amount element 2, and here it's going to say amount 2. It's having the id of amount 2. Now we need to also grab 2 more elements. That's going to be this rate element, which is going to be displayed over here, and the swap button. So I'm going to say const rate element. I'm going to grab that by saying document dot get element by id and rate. Let's also grab that swap button by saying const swap document dot get element by id, and it's having the id of swap. Now let's define some event listeners so that we listen for some events. So first one is going to be in the currency element. That's going to be over here. So whenever someone actually chooses different currency over here, so that I need to fire off an event for currency element 1. I'm going to add an event listener, which is going to look for change event, and it's going to calculate. It's going to call a function calculate, which we will define. Let's make it correct. So it's going to fire off a function called as calculate. Similarly, for the currency element 2, I'm gonna add an event listener of the change, and it's gonna fire up the same function calculate. And let's also add on the amount element 1 event listener, and it's gonna look for the event input. So whenever someone actually inputs something on that amount element 1, so it's gonna fire off this calculate. And also let's add on 2 also. Same thing, it's gonna return for look for input and fire off this calculate function. Now let's just define this function over here. Here I'm gonna add a comment here saying fetch currency rates and update the DOM. Here let's also define my function. Here it should say calculate. Inside of the function, I'm going to have access to const currency element 1. Sorry, I should name the variable as currency 1, and I'm going to grab the value of the currency over here. As you can see, it is USD, right? So this uncaught reference error. Let's refresh. Okay, that I think, yeah, That's the mistake. That's because this function is returning in not anything. So here currency1 is going to be the value of this currency over here. I can grab that by saying currency element1 dot value. Similarly, let's also say I also want the currency2. That's going to be this value over here. I can grab that by saying currency2 over here, so that I can grab this INR over here. Now if I save that, okay, now we have access to currency1 and currency2. Here I need to actually fetch the data from the API. We can get the API from this exchange rate api.com. It's gonna ask you to create an account. So here I have already created an account, so you will get something like this. You will get an API. Let's just copy that, and here let's call the fetch, and let's use template literals, and I'm just gonna paste the API over here. I don't want to extract the rates for this USD. I want to extract dynamically. So here I'm gonna inject my currency1 here. That's going to be this USD over here. It's gonna fetch the currency based on whatever we have over here. If I have Myanmar, that's gonna fetch the data for that. So once the data is fetched, I need to call here. It's gonna return a promise, so I need to call it. Then it's gonna return me a response. I need to convert that response to res.json. Now once I have it converted to JSON, again it's gonna return a promise. So here I will get the data, and on that data, so let's console log the data first to see what actually are we getting. Actually I need to call this function so that it can fetch. I'm gonna call the function. Okay, let's see what actually are we. It is saying from access to fetch chat from origin has been blocked by course policy. No access control header is present. What are we missing over here? Here I need to actually pass the currency1. That's how we can grab the currency1 value, right? That's how we can grab this USD. I was actually passing the whole element, so it was giving me an error. Now if I save that, as you can see, I get a success message, and let's see what actually are we having in the response. As you can see, we have all the conversion rates over here for that USD. Base code is going to be USD. That's what we are fetching, right? That's what it is selected. So here it is fetching for USD, and here are all the exchange rates. Now let's work on that. Let's just remove this console log. Let's just comment out. So here I will say const rate is going to be, let's set the rate to data. I'm accessing this data, and here I need to get access to these conversion rates by saying conversion underscore rates, right? That's what we need to access. I need to access the currency rate of this currency2. So if I have selected USD here, it's gonna fetch the currency rates for that USD, and here I need to grab the rate as for this one, right? How much 1 USD is worth of INR. So here I will say currency2. Now it's gonna grab that value of the current rate. I just need to say here rate element dot inner inner text. I need to set over here as template literals. Here I will say 1. Let's say here currency. Let's just say currency. Sorry, it's blocking my view. Okay, currency1 is equals to the rate actually, and the value, actually the value of currency 2. Now if I save that, currency, okay, I might have misspelled over here. Okay, currency. Now if I save that, as you can see, 1 USD, it is actually fetching this value from this rate over here. It is accessing data.conversion rates, and it is actually accessing the rates for this currency too, which is selected over here. Now similarly, let's also work on amount element 2, and we are going to grab that value, and I'm going to set the amount element to 1, actually 1 dot value into rate. I'm just gonna set it as to fixed to 2. Now if I save that, as you can see, now we are displaying on the amount element 2 over here, that is going to be this one. We are actually displaying the value over here. Now I can increase the value over here. It's gonna update based on the value over here. So I need to actually also work on this swap button, right? So if I click on this swap, it actually switches these currencies. Similarly, one more thing I want to demonstrate here is I can change any value over here. As you can see, 1 NSD. Let's see ILS. As you can see, the values just get updated. Now let's work on the swap functionality. Let's add. We are already accessing the swap button, so here I will add an event listener. Whenever it is clicked, I will listen for the click event, and it's going to fire off a function. It's going to be an arrow function. I will say const temp. I will create a temporary variable to store currency element 1 dot value, to store that currency element value of the currency element 1, and here I will say currency element 2 dot value. I will set it as currency element 1 dot value. So that's how we swap, right? So here I will set the currency element 2 dot value is equals to temp. That's how we can swap. And here also I also need to perform the calculate function. Now if I save that, and if I swap, something wrong actually happened over here. Okay, let's see. Okay, this should be currency element to 1, and this should be currency element 2. Now if I save that and swap, as you can see, the currencies actually get swapped, and the values also will be swapped. That's it, guys. That's it for this project. Hope you guys enjoyed building this project. If you want more projects like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also don't forget to leave a like on this video. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.